The Shetland Islands, 100 miles and more from the Scottish mainland. Population 23,000. Shetland's roots are much closer to Norway than Scotland. That's clear in the annual Aphelia festival. Street signs in Lerwick echo its Nordic past. Shetland even has its own flag. Shetland has its own strong identity and culture, but it's closer to the Arctic Circle in the north than it is to London in the south. It often feels remote from decision makers in Holyrood and Westminster.
If you look historically at how we've been governed, we have a very, very strong Norse connection. We were part of Scandinavia until 1469, and indeed we followed Norse Scandinavian law until 1611. So we don't have that real Scottish feel. I always tell visitors that they won't find haggis, kilts and bagpipes when they're here. So we've got a very unique culture, and so in that sense I think that we should have autonomy. We'd have better control of our fishing industry and the things that are important to an island community.
One of the big issues is transport, ferries and flights. At this fish processor in Scalloway, freight costs are a big burden.
I'm a proud Shetlander. If the Shetland and Orkney Islands can get more of a voice, then of course we're delighted. We're part of Scotland, nobody can deny that. I don't want to remove ourselves from Scotland, but if this raises awareness that we have so much to export from here, and if we can get a deal or arrangement set up, then yeah, of course, I'm delighted.
The push for more control isn't new. Farmer Ronnie Junson was involved with the now defunct Shetland movement in the late 1970s.
As far as Shetlanders are concerned, we don't feel particularly well connected with the rest of the UK very often. As long as that's the case, then that doubt will always be there, that couldn't we do this better ourselves?
Shetlanders often look here to the Faroe Islands as a model for their own future. It's an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark.
It means that the Faroese politicians and the government can decide most of the things self. They don't need to ask for it in Copenhagen. We have our own taxes, so it's very close. It's democracy near the people.
And here in Lerwick Town Hall, that's what Shetland Islands Council has voted to explore.
This is something that's gone on for decades. We've lost control over public health, we've lost control over water, we've lost police and fire services. It looks like we're going to lose control over care services as well. So it's all going in one way at the moment. There is a better way to do it, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
Only 2 councillors voted against the motion seeking greater autonomy. Ian Scott was one of them.
To my mind, there's absolutely no call and no appetite for autonomy for Shetland. I don't feel it, I don't hear it, I don't see it. I've been here for 40 years now, and there's absolutely no call for autonomy.
But it's not only Shetland. Orkney too may now consider reviving its own case.
Shetland had flushed this out. We weren't looking to go headlong into this, but who knows, maybe this is the right time.
The Scottish Government passed the Islands Act 2 years ago, and just 2 months ago approved a £50 million funding package for Shetland, Orkney and the Outer Hebrides. Ministers appear receptive.
The Islands Act came in 2018, totally transformative. First time ever the uniqueness of island life was recognised in legislation, and within that there is a facility to request more powers, and as yet, as far as I'm aware, Shetland Islands Council haven't requested any additional powers. Certainly I'd be more than happy to work with them if they have specific powers they are seeking.
John Goodlad used to represent Shetland's fishermen and once stood as a candidate for the Shetland movement.
I think the fundamental difference now between the situation in the 1970s and the 1980s and the 1990s is that we now have a Scottish Parliament which was established on the basis of self-determination. And that's the mechanism through which island autonomy, I believe, can be delivered.
At the end of all this, of course, there's no question of Shetland leaving the rest of Scotland, but it does pose serious questions. For the local council, do Shetlanders trust it to make the right decisions? And for the SNP government at Holyrood, how does it deal with demands for more autonomy on its own doorstep?